Now I'll be telling you a story of an innocent, carefree 18-year-old. When she first met him, he was full of life. He was her dream man. He was someone who walked out of a fairy tale. And when she saw him, she was so madly in love with him that she couldn't see beyond him. He was perfect in every aspect possible. Well-spoken, well-read, well-dressed. He had completely whisked her off her feet. And the moment when she saw that he was everything, he decided to propose marriage. Little did she know that the same pampered feet that were in awe of her parents, of her friends, and everyone else around her would be making continuous rounds of the court, lawyer offices, and police stations for the next 8 years. The moment her parents got to know that he proposed marriage, they didn't share the same enthusiasm as his parents did because she was far too young. They wanted her to do something in life before she took such a drastic step. Anyhow, 8 months down the relationship, she didn't have a choice, but she gave in, and so did her parents, and they got married. That's when all the disaster started. She was on stage waiting for all her friends to come because she was the first person in the entire batch who was getting married. She was so excited and so happy. And when they started coming on stage one by one, he just sat there abusing them, using such a crass tone that she was trying to remember when was the last time that he actually abused. When was the last time that he actually spoke such foul language? As far as she could remember, he never had a bad tongue in his mouth. That's exactly how he portrayed himself to be to her for the past 8 months and to her family members. To her family members, he was amazing. He was actually two-faced. He would say all these nasty things to her behind doors, but in front of everyone, he was the best son-in-law, the best husband anyone could ever ask for. They ended up going for their honeymoon, which was an absolute disaster for her. He spent every waking hour of that trip harassing her, screaming at her, shouting at her, and sometimes also in public. So much that even if she asked the waiter for a glass of water, she wasn't allowed to do that. He would ask the waiter for the glass of water because he could only speak to the waiter. She couldn't. She wasn't allowed to wear what she wanted. She wasn't allowed to speak to any member she wanted. She wasn't even allowed to go to the bathroom if he said no. To the extent she wasn't allowed to turn the fan on if it was hot. Only if he said that she could turn the fan on, she could turn the fan on. This did not stop here. The abuse went on and on for weeks, for days, months, hours. Every hour of every day she felt like she was walking on eggshells because this man was relentless. It just so happened that she came to Bombay for a few weeks to meet her parents, and because they resided in the same building, she went out with her sister in her own car, and her husband sent the car behind her saying that you sit in my car and come back home. Because she was just 5 minutes away from the signal, she was like, I'll come back in my car. How does it matter? He just slammed the phone, and when she reached home, he was already raging in fury, and he's like, you're so disobedient, and he gave her a tight slap. That was the first time that he raised her hand, and this was barely 6 months down the marriage. She was so shocked when she saw him do that. She was like, why would you slap me? Like, what did I do so wrong? I didn't change the car because I was at the signal. How did it matter? You're so disobedient. You're a horrible wife. You shouldn't be here with me. You're good for nothing. This went on and on and on. And 7th month down the marriage, over a small argument, like something so small, it became so big, and he pinned her down, and then she found herself pregnant. That was 11 years back, and that girl is me. My name is Zaaria Patni, but I prefer going by Zaaria. My pregnancy has been something like not short of a disaster. It was horrible. I was hospitalized 3 times because my ex-husband refused to stop his abuse. He would abuse me day in and day out to the extent that the doctor had advised me to take medicine for my nausea, which he hid. And then he blamed it on me, saying that she doesn't listen. I was hospitalized 3 times. I was put on 30 bottles of saline. And I was advised to come back to Bombay. Because my state was so bad, I actually came back to Bombay on a wheelchair. And when I came back to Bombay, again, a small argument took place, and that argument flared up so much that I decided that I'm not going back. I was done. I couldn't handle the abuse anymore, and with a baby on the way, it just seemed so difficult to lead this life. Post my son's birth, the first time I received a paper from the lawyer, it stated that I won the custody of the unborn baby. He sent this letter just 10 days prior to my son's birth. When I refused, I got a letter from his lawyer stating that I want to see the baby. So when he came to see the baby at the hospital, he came 3 days later. He just came, saw the baby, checked that the child had no deformities, and went back. 35 days later, in my postnatal care, I get the first petition stating I want the custody of the child. I not only just partial custody, I want the full custody of the child over numerous reasons why. Obviously, the stuff that he said did not make any sense again. So I went and fought for my child's custody for 6 long years, day in and day out. Every single day I was in court. From the time that he was 35 days old till he was almost 6 years old, I was in court with him, dragging him no matter what event was happening in school or a family function or a wedding, I still was in court. This is what our Indian system is like. Our judiciary in India, I'm so sorry to say, but I'm so ashamed of them, they're so inefficient. This was a matter that could have been taken place and finished off in less than a few months, but it went on for 6 years. The reason why it went on for 6 years was because my ex managed to take care of every single person from the lowest to the highest to the Supreme Court. Everyone was taken care of. I had no option but to fight. And I fought and I fought and I fought, and I finally won his full custody. During this period, I decided that I need to build my life up. I can't just be stuck out here. I can't be doing this court rounds every day. I need to do something for myself. So I resumed painting, and I did photography for my sister's brand, and I managed to bag in a lot of big brands all over our country as well as abroad, which was like a plus point for me because I felt that at some point I need to rebuild my life. While rebuilding my life, after I got my son's custody, I decided that I should apply for his passport as a single parent. So when I went to the passport office with all my documents, including my divorce papers and the application that said I had Muhammad's full custody, Muhammad is my son, I submitted all my papers and they're looking at me and they're saying that, sorry ma'am, we can't make a passport for your son. Where is your husband? So I gave them my story and I told them that, see, this is the issue. And can you please make a passport? Because as I know that the Indian law does permit me to make a passport as a single parent. They told me to get my ex-husband. So I replied back and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know where he is. So the lady turns around and she tells me, why don't you file for a missing report? And I'm looking at her and I'm like, what missing report? How am I supposed to get my ex-husband from where? We've been divorced 8 years. It's impossible. She looks at me and she's like, no, it's not going to happen. So I go back, I come back, I go back, I come back. I've made around almost like 100 rounds to the passport offices because they kept asking me for different papers and different signatures from different courts every time saying that it'll be done when you come next time. It'll be done when you come next time. I did that. Eventually, the last time when I went to the passport office with all my documents and annexure H back then, it merely stated that you can make a passport for your child as a single parent without the consent of the other parent. Handing over that paper with the stamp from the magistrate, she still said, nahi chalega. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, but you told me that you would do it. Like you wanted all the papers possible. I spent 2 months fighting these magistrates. She's like, no, it's not going to happen. We can't help it. I was so mad. When I came back home, I was like, I need to do something about this. Like, how can my son not have a passport? How is it even possible? That's the most important document that every Indian citizen needs. So I went online and I filed this online petition on change.org addressing to Ms. Sushma Swarajji saying that I need a passport for my son. I'm a single parent. My ex is not there in the picture. He has no rights anymore because he doesn't take care of him financially, mentally, emotionally, physically. I'm the parent that takes care of the child. So why is that his signature so important? 1 month down the line with about 1 lakh signatures, my message was put across. I was covered by practically most of the newspapers around India, television shows, also on radio. And finally, I got my son's passport. I remember I was waiting for a message to come from the passport office that your passport is being hand delivered to you. So instead of waiting at home for the passport to come, I actually went to the I actually went to the post office and I was like, these are my documents, can I please have the passport? And he's like, yeah, I'm giving it to you. But when I saw the passport in my hand, I sighed a relief. For me, my 10-year battle with my ex was over. It was done. This was the only document that I required, because if I didn't get this document, I had to go back in court with him fighting for that one particular document. This is something which is an absolute unnecessary thing in my life. For me to get my son's passport was so important that I went crazy to get the document. And also, my son, he's 10 years old right now. He's like any other normal child that is being brought up in a nuclear family. He's small. People do ask him that, where is he? What does he do? Where's your father? Why doesn't he come? But my son, he's so well composed right now that he has no issue in telling his story to people. Whatever he knows from me in a nutshell, but in such a manner that he's not affected. Because children who come from domestic violence suffer. They do suffer, and we all know that. Girls aged between 15 to 19 around the world think it's okay to be abused. It's not okay to be abused. It's not okay to be abused at any instance. You're not standing out there and being someone's doormat just because the person doesn't like how you look, just because the person doesn't like what you wear, just because the person doesn't like how you feel. It's not okay to abuse somebody else. So what I'm here for is that we need, as people of this generation, we need to stop the abuse. Abuse is something which is not acceptable in any society. And it's not only for women, it's also for men. Till last year, the clause was only for women, but this year I believe it's been implemented for men also, because men also get abused. It's something that's so wrong. But what I feel that you guys need to take back from my talk is that no matter what happens, no matter where you are, no matter where you come from, what color you are, what skin tone, what caste, we need to stop the abuse. And the only way we can stop the abuse is by stopping the abuser. Because if we don't stop the abuser, at this point, we're giving rise to more abusers. And that's just a very vicious circle and a very scary circle. Because small kids feel that it's okay, that this kind of behavior in families is okay, but it's not okay. And after all of this, no matter what happened, I decided that I was not going to break down. I did have my bad time. I did have a time where I felt like I couldn't go forward with this, but I pushed myself so hard that I was like, no, I have achieved so much and I've come so far and I still need so many more things to do in my life. I cannot break down. And what I believe is that it's all the power of the mind. If we stop right now, if we stop ourselves from breaking down right now, we will be better people. And the only way that you can do is you. You just have to look within you to change every possible bad thing that's happening in your life and make it good.
Thank you.